let's define better. Our councilors throw around, and mayor, throw around terms like, best city in the country. Really? Like, how are you defining that?
Do you think Hamilton's a good city? Well, this was the start of my conversation with Graham Crawford, one of the founders of iElect. In it, we explored the important issue of city council and city governance, and more importantly, what's wrong with Hamilton. This is Aislinn from the OPER Remaster video team, so let's get into it.
iElect is a grassroots group that, as its statement says, new leadership for a better Hamilton. We're tired of the old guard councilors. So iElect, though, stands for infrastructure, economy, leadership, environment, community, and transportation. Together, they spell iElect. Under each of those, we then as a group define, well, what do we mean by infrastructure? Our current longest serving councillor is in his 33rd year. That's too long. When you look at his voting record, you look at his innovation, insight into current issues, that's non-existent. The guy just is about blue boxes and kissing babies and hugging seniors. He's just ineffective.
Some background. City councilors are elected to represent their wards. In Hamilton, we have 15 wards, and the chances are, if you live near Mac, you're in Ward 1, now represented by Maureen Wilson. She's a city councilor that's voted in for a 4-year term. Now, city councilors do a lot, but not all of them are good.
The bad ones, and we have them on Hamilton Council, they don't travel. I believe if you don't travel, I don't care where you go. I don't care if you go up the road to Guelph or Kitchener or to another country. You need to see the world through the eyes of other communities, not just our own. So we have good ones. What does a good one do? A good one, in our view, they read their documents, for one thing. It's a tough job, by the way. If you do it well, it's a difficult job. I think it's rewarding if you do it well. But a lot of our councillors in Hamilton, I'm sure it's true across the country, don't read the reports. They come to meetings, they have no idea. They're going to try and fake it and pick up the content during the meeting based on staff presentations or staff's answers to councillors' presentations. It's really evident when a councillor has not read the report, when they ask a question and the staff say, well, that's on page 8. We go into some detail about that. And the council, yes, of course. But you can tell they have not read. You could read current literature on city building, city development, city issues, social justice issues, social justice solutions. Our councillors, by and large, do not read. They don't read reports and they don't read current literature, even articles, let alone books on this. The good ones do, and we do have some good ones. So that's gaining knowledge and perspective and broadening your horizons. You also stay in touch with your constituents. How do you do that? Well, the veteran councillors actually are pretty good about this one because they make sure that their office assistants are really, really good at taking inbound phone calls or emails. The issue, though, is a lot of those emails have to do with there's snow at the end of my driveway. There's a pothole on my street. The street light outside of my house is burned out. Just because you're a good one doesn't mean you don't have people calling you about that stuff, because they will, of course. But if that's primarily what you do, then I think you're a customer service representative. You're not a councillor. Councillors are supposed to be leading our government, building our city, making Hamilton better. As we say, iElect says, new leadership for a better Hamilton.
What Graham's talking about really is interesting because I do think about blue boxes when I think city government. I think potholes and not much else. So what does the city council do and why should I care? But what he's describing is called the old guard council. It doesn't have to just be snowplows and construction. City council can be, and you should be, leaders in our city, not just thinking day to day or whatever gets them to the next election, but what changes in Hamilton will make it easier, safer, and healthier to live and age in the city. And some councillors like Narendra Nan and Maureen Wilson in Hamilton are doing that work to improve the city, but not enough councillors are following their lead.
They're out of touch, and it's all about getting reelected because this is the best job any of them have ever had. And once you reach a certain point, if you've done the financial calculations and your municipal pension isn't going to cover your expenses, you're going to keep wanting to get reelected.
Let me just rewind a bit. You might be wondering if councillors really need to be innovative. I mean, obviously you want your city services taken care of first. We can't just have councillors dreaming up a better Hamilton while the garbage piles up. But it's not just that councillors neglect the city building parts of their job. It's that some are blatantly choosing to hide reports of dangerous decisions, freeze homeless people out of City Hall, and sacrifice environmental and social justice for the sake of short-term profit.
So I would say if social justice is a term that you don't like as a councillor, you're the wrong councillor, because you can't live in Canada. You can't live anywhere. You can't live in Canada. You certainly can't live in Hamilton and not care about social justice. Perfect example. So we have a homelessness crisis in Hamilton, and it's a crisis. As you and I are talking, the temperatures are, continue to dip. And what did the city do? The city closed off the vents. They boarded up the vents so they couldn't get in. So that's the kind of social justice, social injustice that we need to fight against, and we need to vote people in who get it.
These aren't new issues. Homelessness and people dying in the streets is all too common in our cities. But the problem is, the city's had so many chances to change that, but they've either ignored the issue or actively hurt homeless people it should be serving. Even today, the Drop the Charges movement is still ongoing, as Hamilton police arrested 3 Black youths who tried to help encampment victims during teardowns. And then during these teardowns, encampment victims had their possessions destroyed and trashed. And then with full city shelters and the police presence in parks and encampments, these residents were forced into the escarpment sometimes. Unfortunately, the encampment scandal wasn't the only one that Hamilton has gotten itself into. I encourage you to check out iElect's website, where they list a whole bunch of different things you probably haven't heard of. Here, Graham talks a little bit about some other scandals that Hamilton has gotten itself into.
24 billion liters of sewage into Coots Paradise, where their city council voted to keep information secret from the public. 14 times they voted to keep it secret. Every Mac student knows Coots Paradise. 24 billion liters of sewage over 4 years, and they didn't want us to know about it. Gay pride, there were issues, policing, encampments, defund the police groups, all mistreated, scandal after scandal after scandal. And we are making sure that the public is made aware of those, but also is kept aware of those. Otherwise, you never pay any penalty for this. You just kind of keep getting elected.
The good news? We have the power to change the narrative here. We can have a city government that isn't just thinking 4 years ahead. We can have councillors that get great things done, working collaboratively, not competitively. And we do that by voting. For better or for worse, really, it's the only way to make change on who gets to call themselves a councillor. There's no recall vote. There's no way to unblock those vents and save the people we lost. And we can't just take the sewage out of our wetland, but we can vote in leaders that won't make the same avoidable mistakes. Our local government is destroying that. We should be, and I think many of us are, outraged. And I hope that our councillors pay for this at the ballot box, but we'll see. We understand that as a councillor, you have to deal with issues like potholes and blue boxes. But how about if it was 60-40? 60% of what you did was that, and 40% of what you did was city building. Not just voting on issues that were citywide, because that's not what I'm talking about. It's not what iElect's talking about. We're talking about leadership in areas to move Hamilton forward, to make us a genuinely great city, not just a big city. That's why I think it's important for students to pay attention, get involved, and vote. If they're eligible to vote.